Friday morning broke over Bloomington with a deceptive calm. At 10:30 a.m., Jesse Wolfe woke up. He expected to find Lauren in her bed, or at least a text explaining where she was. He found neither. He sent a text, "Where are you?" No reply. He called her phone. When the line picked up, it wasn't Lauren. It was an employee at Kilroy's sports bar. Lauren's phone had been sitting in a pile of sand for 8 hours. This is the moment the stomach drops. In 2011, a 20-year-old girl does not survive a night without her phone. Jesse didn't wait. He didn't assume she was sleeping it off. He called the police immediately. In a missing person case, the first 24 hours are oxygen. Every minute that passes, the trail gets colder. Initially, the police treated this as a standard overdue student. Maybe she passed out at a frat house. Maybe she was in the hospital. But as the sun began to set on Friday and Lauren still hadn't appeared, the oxygen ran out. Police began to retrace the steps based on Jay Rosenbaum's statement. Remember, Rosenbaum told police he watched Lauren walk out the front door and head south toward the intersection of 11th and College. He was adamant he saw her leave. But then a discovery was made that shattered that narrative. In an alleyway running between the buildings, in the opposite direction of where Rosenbaum said she walked, police found Lauren's small beaded purse, and inside, her apartment keys. This is the first open loop that simply does not close. If Lauren walked south to the corner, why were her keys found in the alley to the north? Did she leave and circle back? Or did she never leave the apartment complex at all? The placement of those keys suggests that the witness account of her walking away might have been a fabrication to buy time. By Saturday, the police focused their laser sights on the men who were last with her, Corey Rossman and Jay Rosenbaum. Initially, they spoke to police, but as the gravity of the situation settled in, and as the rumors of drugs and negligence began to swirl, the dynamic shifted. Their parents, wealthy families from the East Coast, flew in, and almost immediately, the talking stopped. This is what makes the Spierer case so uniquely infuriating. Usually, in a disappearance, friends are leading the search parties. They are sobbing on TV. In this case, the friends hired high-powered criminal defense attorneys and invoked their Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. They refused polygraphs. They refused further interviews. Now, let's be clear. Utilizing your constitutional rights does not make you a murderer. It makes you smart legally. But in the court of public opinion, and in the eyes of a desperate family, that silence looked a lot like guilt. It looked like a pact. They weren't protecting Lauren anymore. They were protecting themselves. I want you to look at this map with me. This is the armchair detective moment where I need your theory. This is the corner Jay Rosenbaum swears he watched Lauren walk to. There are cameras on the apartments across the street. There are cameras on the municipal building. Police reviewed thousands of hours of footage. They saw the white truck, they saw other students, but they never saw Lauren. If she walked to that corner, she walked through a digital blind spot that simply does not exist. She was invisible to the machines. So here is the question I want you to answer in the comments below. Option A, did Lauren manage to thread the needle, avoiding every single camera and witness in a crowded city? Or option B, did she never leave that apartment complex alive? Was the story of her walking away just a fabrication to explain why she wasn't there when the police arrived? Pause the video, leave your vote, walked away, or never left, because what we discuss next might confirm your worst fears. For years, the internet has buzzed with the theory of the stranger in the night. The premise is terrifyingly simple. Lauren was alone. She was intoxicated. She was barefoot. She was the perfect target for a predator of opportunity. And for a moment, the police actually had a solid lead. Witnesses reported a white truck circling the block around 4:15 a.m. Surveillance cameras actually captured a vehicle matching this description. This sparked a media frenzy. Was it a local predator? Was it a serial killer passing through on the interstate? The timeline fits perfectly. A 10-second window where she is walking, a truck pulls up, and she is gone. But reality is rarely a movie script. The FBI tracked down the owner of that truck. It wasn't a killer. It was a man on his way to work. His alibi was solid. His vehicle was clean. Furthermore, the window of opportunity was impossibly small. Remember the crowded streets? Remember the cameras? To abduct a struggling woman without a single scream being heard, without a door slam being caught on audio, in the middle of Indy 500 weekend? It is possible, but statistically, it is microscopic. If we remove the stranger, we are left with the people in the room. This brings us to the most prevailing theory, the one that keeps the Spierer family awake at night. The theory that Lauren didn't leave the apartment, she died inside it. Consider the variables. Lauren had a heart condition that made her prone to collapse. She had consumed a dangerous amount of alcohol and allegedly drugs. If she went into cardiac arrest at 4 a.m. in an apartment full of wealthy college students holding illegal substances, what happens? Do they call 911 and risk expulsion, drug charges, and prison? Or does panic set in? Does a tragic accident transform into a criminal cover-up in the span of 10 minutes? This theory is supported by the behavior of the boys, the silence, the lawyers, and it led police to one of the darkest chapters of the investigation. Believing that Lauren's body may have been disposed of in a dumpster, police spent weeks searching the Sycamore Ridge landfill. They sifted through 4,100 tons of garbage by hand. They found nothing. But the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. In a landfill that size, a small body can disappear forever. 2 years passed. No arrests, no answers. Lauren's parents, Rob and Charlene, were desperate. They knew the criminal case was stalled because the suspects weren't talking. So they tried a different weapon, civil court. They filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the 3 men, not to get money, but to get them deposed. The strategy was brilliant. In a criminal case, you have the right to remain silent. In a civil case, you can be forced to answer questions under oath. The Spierers argued that the boys had a duty of care to Lauren, that by taking an intoxicated, incapacitated girl out of her building and by supplying her with drinks, they assumed responsibility for her safety. But the law is cold. The federal judge ruled against the family. The court stated that under Indiana law, the men had no legal duty to look after Lauren, even if she was intoxicated. The lawsuit was thrown out. The deposition tapes were sealed or never fully materialized. The trap failed. The boys walked free, legally insulated from the questions that needed answering. And with that gavel bang, the hope for a confession died. In the vacuum of answers, the internet created its own villains. For years, Jesse Wolf was the target of relentless public speculation. Why didn't he go out? Why didn't he wake up sooner? But the police were clear. Jesse passed a polygraph. He cooperated. His alibi held. He was not the perpetrator. He was the first victim of the ripple effect. He lost the love of his life, and then he lost his privacy to an army of keyboard detectives. While Jesse had to rebuild a life from the ashes of accusation, the men who were last with her simply moved on. They graduated, they got jobs, they moved to new cities. The legal strategy worked. The silence held. They are now in their 30s. They likely have families, careers, and futures. But one has to wonder, when the house is quiet and the lights go out, do they still see her standing in that doorway? Psychologists have a term for this: ambiguous loss. It is considered the most traumatic type of grief because it lacks a conclusion. Without a body, there is no funeral. Without a funeral, there is no goodbye. For Rob and Charlene Spierer, the nightmare didn't end on June 3rd. It just started looping. Bloomington has changed. New students walk those streets today who weren't even in middle school when Lauren vanished. To them, she is just a ghost story told during orientation week, a cautionary tale about the buddy system. But Lauren wasn't a cautionary tale. She was a daughter, she was a sister, and she was a friend. We started this story with a paradox. How does a girl vanish in a crowded room? The answer is terrifyingly simple. She didn't vanish because no one saw anything. She vanished because the people who did see something decided that their secrets were worth more than her life. There are no perfect crimes. There are only perfect silences. And one day, that silence will break. Until then, Lauren Spierer remains the girl who walked into the dark and never walked out.